Defense mechanisms. When life throws us a curveball, our minds have a peculiar way of responding. Instead of tackling the issue head on, we unconsciously morph our internal narrative into something more manageable. In the realm of psychology, these fascinating mental maneuvers are dubbed defense mechanisms. Do you ever feel like your emotions are driving the car and you're just along for the ride? Sometimes we react in ways that we don't even make sense, even to ourselves. Defense mechanisms are the brain's way of keeping us safe from being fully aware of unpleasant thoughts and feelings. These are unconscious reactions that we are not aware of. Individuals often remain oblivious to the employment of these self-preservation techniques. Given their nature as survival adaptations, it would be erroneous to label defense mechanisms as right, wrong, or unhealthy. Nonetheless, they often impede our recognition of genuine underlying emotions, they provoke tension within our physical selves, and they pose obstacles to intimacy. The history of defense mechanisms. The concept of defense mechanisms was first developed by Sigmund Freud and was detailed by his daughter Anna Freud in 1936 in her book, The Ego and the Mechanisms of Defense. The Freuds developed 10 mechanisms which over the years have been expanded upon and used by psychologists and mental health professionals to guide their clients to develop more self-awareness and healthier ways of coping with anxiety and stressful situations. The foundation of defense mechanism lies within Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical paradigm, which posits that an individual psyche comprises three fundamental elements: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id represents our primal instincts and urges, while the superego embodies our adherence to societal norms and moral standards. Acting as the mediator, the ego strives to reconcile the conflicting demands of the id, superego, and external reality. Within Freudian theory, defense mechanism serves as some conscious protective strategies employed by the ego to alleviate the anxiety arising from the inherent and incompatible conflicts between the id and the superego. In instances where these elements clash with external reality, the ego resorts to these mechanisms to shield itself from discomfort and distress. There are three categories of defense mechanisms, ranging from highly adaptive, almost healthy coping mechanisms to neurotic inhibiting avoidance mechanisms, and on the really immature end of the spectrum, we have the maladaptive depressive defense mechanisms. 25 defense mechanisms. Grab your popcorn and soda. Here are 25 defense mechanisms and their practical applications. Projection. Projection involves attributing one's feelings, desires, or qualities onto another person, group, animal, or object. When you're feeling angry, you blame the other person for being angry. Your own anger is an unacceptable feeling. In another example, a person accuses their partner of being jealous, when in reality it's their own feelings that they are projecting onto their partner. They might say, "You're always so suspicious of me." Or imagine that you hate someone, but your superego tells you that hatred is unacceptable. You can solve the problem by believing that they hate you. You remain unaware of your own hatred, and the person you projected your feelings on seems so unfair. Projection can also happen in parent-child relationships. Maybe your parents called you selfish, irresponsible, or crazy, or told you to stop being angry, when they were the ones being selfish, irresponsible, off-kilter, or getting angry. Projection is one of those relationship experiences that can make you feel crazy, and it sort of is. Projection falls in the immature depressive defenses. Number 2, displacement. Displacement is transferring one's feelings or emotional reactions away from the correct target to someone or something else. For example, a person's having a rough day at work and goes home and kicks the dog. Then they yell at their son for protecting the dog. Unaware of the displacement, he yells, "No one respects me around here." If a person is angry but cannot direct their anger towards the source without consequences, They might subconsciously direct their anger towards a person or a thing that poses less of a risk. We call this displaced aggression. It's not just anger. Love can be misdirected too, such as when someone marries a person who is just like their parent, a parent who is always cold and distant, and they greatly desired their parent's affection. By subconsciously displacing their love to the wrong person, they set themselves up for relationship failure. Displacement is a neurotic inhibition and avoidance defense. Number 3, compartmentalization. Ever find yourself playing a game of emotional Tetris? That's compartmentalizations for you. Slicing and dicing your life into neat little sections to keep the chaos at bay. Take, for instance, the classic move of shelving family drama or the weight of the world's problems when you clock in at work. It's like putting those emotions on ice, allowing you to become a productivity powerhouse until the clock strikes 5. It's all about keeping the emotional waters calm while you navigate the choppy seas of daily life. Number 4, denial. Ignoring the reality of a situation to avoid anxiety is denial, one of Freud's top 10. It's categorized as an immature defense. It involves the refusal to acknowledge disturbing aspects of external reality as well as disturbing internal reality, such as thoughts, memories, or feelings. Such as when a person refuses to acknowledge their partner is cheating on them despite catching them in the act. Or a person with a substance abuse problem might say, "I don't have a problem," despite the problems that their substance abuse is causing in their life. Number 5, distraction. Ever caught yourself playing the distraction game like a pro? It's a classic defense move, like reaching for your phone to dive into the never-ending abyss of social media when life stresses hit the roof. Or how about going on a cyber window shopping spree when loneliness or shame hits hard? It's like putting on a mental blindfold and venturing into the world of online distractions to escape the emotional storm brewing inside. Distraction is a coping mechanism on the mature spectrum of the defense mechanisms. Repression. The subconscious mind uses repression to block out unpleasant feelings, events, and memories. The memory lies buried deep within the mind, such as when a trauma survivor cannot remember the actual details of what happened to them, despite being completely conscious when the trauma occurred. They have repressed those memories in order to cope with the trauma. They may have unexplained unease, vague anxiety, without understanding why. They also might develop phobias, such as freezing and being unable to drive, due to repressed memories of an accident. Or a child bitten by a dog might develop phobias of dogs without remembering the actual attack. People often unconsciously repress traumatic events from childhood, such as accidents and abuse. Repression is the tendency to inhibit negative events in order to prevent one's positive self-image from being threatened. Repression is a neurotic defense mechanism. Number 7, suppression. Suppression is similar to repression, except that it's done more consciously and is considered a mature defense mechanism. A person may choose to suppress difficult memories, ideas, or feelings by trying to push those thoughts out of their mind so that they may better focus on the task at hand. Suppression is a conscious temporary forgetting. Repression is subconscious forgetting. Repression or suppressing our emotions can actually make them stronger. This can create many maladies in the body and in the mind, causing many health issues. Number 8, intellectualization. Intellectualization serves as a defense mechanism in which one fixates excessively on the intellectual facets of a matter, sidestepping the emotional dimensions. For instance, in response to being asked about one's feelings regarding the passing of a loved one, employing this cognitive defense mechanism might entail discussing abstractly the inevitability of the cycle of life and death, emphasizing universal mortality and the aging process, thus deflecting from the personal emotional impact of the loss. Intellectualization is an obsessional inhibition and avoidance defense. Splitting. In the defense mechanism of splitting, a person sees things, situations, or people as either all good or all bad, with no middle ground, without acknowledging any complexities or gray areas. Splitting diffuses the anxiety that arises from our inability to understand the complexities of a given situation. It reinforces our idea of ourselves as good and virtuous by discounting and demonizing all those who do not share our views and values. Splitting begins in childhood and occurs in borderline personality disorder. It also occurs in our two-party political system. Number 10, regression. When individuals employ regression as a defense mechanism, they manage stressors by reverting to behaviors that are childish, immature, or not suitable for their age. This entails returning to earlier developmental phases, where excessive dependency or temper tantrums were typical. A child faced with hospitalization or a stressful event may regress to bedwetting. What we refer to as road rage is an adult having a temper tantrum. Feelings of insecurity, fear, and anger have the potential to induce regression in adults. Essentially, individuals retreat to a stage in their development where they felt more secure and where stress was absent, or when they relied on an omnipotent parent or another adult figure for rescue. Regression was one of the original 10 defense mechanisms. Rationalization. Rationalization manifests in various guises, encompassing the act of justifying unacceptable behavior through logical or reasoned arguments, rather than confronting the emotional and potentially adverse realities that underlie our actions. Take, for instance, a scenario where an individual cheats on their partner. They may endeavor to rationalize their actions by attributing them to intoxication, suggesting it shouldn't be held against them, or by citing the infrequency of sexual intimacy with their partner as justification for seeking it elsewhere clandestinely. Examples of rationalization. A person stealing something and rationalizing that the person he stole it from didn't deserve to have more than others. Minimizing the situation. It's really not that bad. Making excuses. A person turned down for a date says they weren't attracted to the other person anyway. Rationalization is an immature, depressive defense mechanism. Number 12, sublimation. Sublimation is when someone redirects their unacceptable emotion or urges into socially acceptable activities. This is another of Freud's original 10. Sublimation is the ninja move of redirecting your emotions or urges into something as safe as cuddling a teddy bear. Think of it like this. Instead of punching walls when stressed, you become a gym rat, pumping iron like it's going out of style. Or imagine transforming all that steamy sexual energy into painting masterpieces that would make Picasso blush. It's like turning emotional fireworks into a dazzling display of productivity. When you're conscious about it, it can actually be a healthy coping mechanism. Reaction formation. Oh boy, reaction formation, where people swap their true feelings for the exact opposite. It's like a quick change act. Picture this, someone showering excessive kindness on a person they secretly can't stand, or bursting into laughter when they're crumbling inside. Or let's talk about the big shots with superiority complexes. Underneath all that bravado lies a delicate mix of insecurity, shame, and a pinch of feeling like yesterday's leftovers. To dodge that shame bomb, they armor up with their "I'm better than you" facade like a knight donning a suit of ego. Then they're stonewalling, the classic move of shutting down and becoming non-responsive or dismissive. Instead of admitting they're anxious and upset, they go mute and give you the cold shoulder. It's like playing hide-and-seek with your feelings, but they're winning by hiding in plain sight. Reaction formation is the converting of unwanted or dangerous thoughts, feelings, or impulses into their opposites. It is considered a neurotic defense mechanism. Number 14, Disassociation. Disassociation serves as a potent defense mechanism, allowing individuals to mentally detach from overwhelming or traumatic situations. It involves the separation of thoughts, feelings, memories, or even one's sense of identity from immediate awareness. Picture this. You're faced with a distressing event, and suddenly it feels like you're watching it unfold from a distance. It's as if it's happening to someone else entirely. Astral projection is something that commonly occurs with disassociation. This disassociation form of reality is a common defense mechanism, particularly in response to severe stress or trauma, as it provides a temporary respite from the intense emotional pain associated with the experience. For example, imagine a person surviving a car accident. In the aftermath, they might recount the incident with a detached, almost robotic demeanor, as if narrating a story rather than reliving a traumatic event. This disassociation response allows them to compartmentalize the emotional distress and navigate the aftermath without feeling overwhelmed by fear or anxiety. While disassociation is often associated with conditions like dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder, it is also a prevalent phenomenon in non-clinical populations. Despite its neurotic connotations, disassociation serves as a coping mechanism that enables individuals to cope with their extreme stressors. However, if disassociation becomes chronic or interferes with daily functioning, it may warrant professional intervention to address underlying psychological distress. Number 15, isolation of affect. Isolation of affect as a defense mechanism occurs when someone disconnects their emotions from their thoughts or experiences. It's like talking about something which is very sad or very frightening, but without feeling any sadness or fear. This happens in obsessive compulsive disorder or in people who have experienced very traumatic events. Isolation of affect as a coping mechanism. Healthcare professionals, such as doctors, nurses, and therapists, often need to maintain a degree of emotional distance from their patients' experiences to provide effective care. This can result in isolation of affect, where the healthcare provider discusses distressing or traumatic medical conditions with patients without visibly displaying emotional reactions. For instance, a doctor may deliver a diagnosis of a life-threatening illness to a patient with a calm and composed demeanor, despite feeling empathy or sadness internally. While this professional detachment is necessary for clinical objectivity and professionalism, it can lead to feelings of emotional disconnection or burnout if not managed effectively. Number 16, undoing. Undoing is the defense mechanism in which a person tries to cancel out or undo an unhealthy, destructive, or otherwise threatening thought or action by doing the opposite behavior. It is an obsessional avoidance defense. Ever witness someone doing the verbal version of an undo button? That's undoing for you. A sneaky defense move where folks try to backtrack on their thoughts or actions. Maybe someone's dropping a bomb of an opinion, only to cushion it with a disclaimer that pretty much cancels it out. I was only joking. Or how about showering someone with kindness after realizing you've hurt them deeply? It's like trying to hit the reset button of your guilt meter by overcompensating with acts of kindness. Number 17, humor. Believe it or not, humor can double as a shield against life's curveballs. Take the classic move of cracking jokes about a traumatic event to dodge the pain and sorrow. Or think of that friend who's always a walking stand-up comedy show, firing off one-liners. Like they're auditioning for the role of class clown to mask their anxiety, insecurities, and the general chaos of everyday life. It's like they're trying to outwit life's troubles with a punchline and a smile. Humor is used as a mature, highly adaptive defense. Number 18, acting out. Acting out. the defense mechanism that's as basic as coloring outside the lines. Instead of facing up to those pesky negative emotions, folks unleash them in a dramatic display, like yelling and screaming during a spat, instead of owning up to feeling peeved. It's like turning emotions into a blockbuster movie, complete with explosions and drama. Or imagine someone diving headfirst into reckless or impulsive behavior to steer clear of facing their inner turmoil. It's like trying to outrun your feelings in a wild game of emotional dodgeball. When a person acts out, they express their unconscious and unacceptable emotions, wishes, or impulses through their actions rather than consciously verbalizing them. People do things without realizing why they are doing them. For instance, a child will act out their feelings of neglect when not getting enough attention at home, by acting out at school to get attention. Acting out is on the immature end of defenses. Number 19, passive aggression. Imagine tiptoeing around someone who's mastered the art of passive aggression. It's like living with a ninja who attacks with silent words. Passive-aggressive behavior isn't just a lousy communication strategy, it's a fortress built to avoid direct showdowns. Instead of facing issues head-on, it's all about dropping subtle hints and backhanded comments. Why? Maybe they're scared of their own emotions, or perhaps they're convinced honesty won't fly. Either way, it's like navigating a minefield of unsaid words and unspoken tensions. Passive-aggressive behavior involves expressing negative emotions like anger in subtle ways, such as giving someone the silent treatment. This maladaptive approach carries lasting repercussions for both personal and professional relationships. Unlike overt displays of emotion, passive aggression operates under the radar, concealing its barbs and actions often behind a smile. Number 20, avoidance. Sometimes individuals opt to steer clear of people, locations, or situations linked to negative emotions as a tactic to sidestep confronting them directly. Take, for instance, someone grappling with abandonment issues who opts to dodge relationships altogether to evade facing the looming specter of fear and sadness tied to abandonment. Avoidance is found in PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. The person may avoid the location of an accident or may refrain from driving altogether. Avoidance involves avoiding persons, events, and places, such as avoiding phone calls because it may come from a creditor, or ignoring your mail to avoid seeing bills and facing the reality of debt. Number 21, altruism. Ever heard of altruism doubling as a defense mechanism? Believe it or not, sometimes it's not just about saving the world, it's about saving yourself too. Picture this. Someone battling the blues finds solace in lifting others up. Like a depression-fighting duo, it's like finding the secret stash of chocolate in your desk drawer. It's not just for sharing, it's a pick-me-up for you too. Helping others might just be the ultimate mental health hack, like a 2-for-1 deal on emotional well-being. Number 22, somatization. Somatization, or conversion, is indeed a psychosomatic defense mechanism where an individual manifests physical conditions or sensory challenges to manage emotional distress. For instance, consider someone who witnessed a tragedy but feels powerless to intervene. Overwhelmed by guilt, they may find themselves unable to speak altogether. This defense mechanism is often seen in conversion disorder, which is also referred to as functional neurological symptom disorder. The patient may experience sudden paralysis or blindness as a result of severe stress, with no identifiable medical explanation. Number 23, introjection. Introjection, also referred to as identification or internalization, occurs when an individual unconsciously absorbs or imitates the feelings or behaviors they observe in others. While it's a natural aspect of growth, like a child embracing their parents' values and attitudes, it can also serve as an adult defense mechanism in situations that arouse anxiety. Here's a few examples. Cultural beliefs and norms. Growing up in a specific culture or religious environment can lead individuals to internalize societal norms, values, and beliefs without consciously questioning them. For instance, a person raised in a culture that values collectivism may internalize the importance of prioritizing the needs of the group over individual desires, even if it conflicts with their personal inclinations. Peer pressure. Adolescents often internalize the behaviors and attitudes of the peer group as they navigate social interactions. For example, a teenager may adopt certain fashion trends, slangs, or hobbies to fit with their peer group, even if those behaviors do not align with their true preferences. Romantic relationships. Individuals may internalize their partner's preferences, mannerisms, and communication styles over the course of a romantic relationship. For example, a person may adopt their partner's political beliefs or religion, leading to a blurring of individual identities within the relationship. In each of these examples, interjection occurs as individuals unconsciously absorb or mimic the feelings, behaviors, and values of others, whether it be societal norms, peer influences, parental expectations, professional culture, or romantic dynamics. While interjection can facilitate socialization and adaptation to one's environment, it can also lead to internal conflict, anxiety, and a diminished sense of self if individuals struggle to differentiate their own beliefs and desires from those of others. Number 24, compensation. A person may focus on excelling in one area of their life in order to make up for imagined deficiencies or failures in other areas. For example, a person feeling insecure about their physical appearance may compensate by becoming hyper-focused on professional achievement. However, compensation can also be unconscious. Your feelings of inadequacy can be hidden and may drive you to compensate for them. For example, a man who's insecure about his body may try to compensate by driving the biggest truck money can buy. And then, number 25, anticipation. Anticipation falls within the category of highly adaptive defenses, representing the healthier end of the spectrum. It involves mentally preparing for an upcoming event that is expected to induce anxiety and stress. Anticipation entails proactively addressing potential problems and contemplating realistic solutions. However, anticipation can become maladaptive when one excessively dwells on anticipated issues, leading to insomnia and physiological complications like hypertension, ulcers, and diabetes. In such cases, relying solely on this defense mechanism offers only temporary relief from the onslaught of anxiety. Why we use defense mechanisms. Ever wonder why we humans are masters of self-preservation? It's all thanks to our trusty defense mechanisms, those sneaky mental bodyguards working tirelessly behind the scenes. But here's the kicker. Most of the time, we're clueless that they're even on duty. Yep, they operate incognito, slipping under the radar until we decide to shine a light on them. Now rewind to your childhood playground days. That's where the seeds of these protective strategies were planted. From dodging bullies to navigating family dramas, our defense mechanisms were the unsung heroes, helping us weather the storms of growing up. But here's the plot twist. While these guardians served us well in the past, they can turn into double agents, wreaking havoc on our adult lives. Think about this: the relationship drama, emotional roller coasters, and mysterious physical ailments, all potentially traced back to our trusty defense mechanisms gone rogue. It's like having a secret saboteur in the mist, causing chaos under the guise of protection. So what's the morale of the story? While our defense mechanisms may have saved us from childhood woes, they can also be the culprits behind our grown-up troubles. But fear not, awareness is our greatest weapon. By shining a light on these shadowy protectors, we can reclaim control and rewrite the script of our lives. Discovering your own defense mechanisms. You're cruising through life, but there's a glitch in the system. Those trusty defense mechanisms you've relied on since forever, they're pulling a fast one on you, keeping you in the dark about your true feelings and turning up the tension dial to max. But fear not, there's a beacon of hope in this darkness. It's called self-awareness, and it's your ticket to cracking the code of these elusive defense mechanisms. Self-awareness is your ability to perceive and understand the things that make you who you are as an individual, including your personality, actions, values, beliefs, emotions, and thoughts. Armed with this newfound self-awareness, you can bid adieu to those unproductive defense mechanisms and say hello to a healthier, happier relationships. Recognizing defense mechanisms in others. Navigating the delicate terrain of recognizing defense mechanisms in others requires a nuanced approach. It's akin to traversing a tightrope strung between empathy and boundary respect. Sure, you might spot those elusive mental shields in action, but before you burst out your defense mechanism detector, pause for a moment and consider the context. See, calling out someone's defense mechanisms without their consent is like stepping into a minefield blindfolded. It's a subtle boundary violation that can leave both parties feeling exposed and uneasy. Imagine the vulnerability of having someone shine a spotlight on the very defenses you meticulously crafted to keep your inner world safe. It's like having your emotional armor stripped away in public, leaving you feeling raw and exposed. Moreover, nobody likes feeling like they're under a microscope, subjected to unsolicited psychoanalysis from an amateur Freud. It's a bit like having your neighbor decide to remodel your house without your permission. Sure, they mean well, but it's your home, your sanctuary. However, there are instances when calling out someone's defense mechanisms may be warranted. Picture this: you're unfairly accused of harboring anger when in reality it's the other person projecting their own simmering emotions on you. In such cases, a gentle nudge towards self-awareness might be in order, a diplomatic invitation to explore the underlying emotions at play. So as you tread the delicate tightrope of recognizing defense mechanisms in others, remember to tread lightly. Lead with empathy and respect those invisible boundaries. After all, understanding and compassion can be powerful allies in navigating the labyrinth of human emotions. Delving into the intricacies of defense mechanisms, this journey has unveiled a tapestry of subconscious behaviors that silently shaped our lives. As the curtain draws back on these psychological defenses, we're met with a mix of revelation, humility, and perhaps a tinge of apprehension. For years, these defense mechanisms have stood guard, shielding us from the storms of life's challenges. They've been our silent sentinels, navigating us through tumultuous seas and guiding us to calmer shores. Letting go of these guardians can feel akin to casting off a security blanket, daunting, unsettling, yet strangely liberating. Yet in the midst of this journey lies a profound opportunity for self-discovery and growth. By peeling back the layers of our subconscious, we gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and our emotional landscapes. We unearth the hidden motivations behind our actions, unraveling the intricate web of thoughts and feelings that shape our reality. But make no mistake, this journey is not for the faint of heart. It requires courage to confront the shadowy corners of our psyche and humility to acknowledge the role these defenses have played in our lives. It's a process of self-exploration that demands vulnerability and introspection, but the rewards are immeasurable. For with each defense mechanism we unravel, we inch closer to a more authentic and fulfilling existence. We gain clarity into our needs, desires, and boundaries, empowering us to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. And as we deepen our understanding of ourselves, we pave the way for genuine self-care and compassion. So, as you embark on this journey of self discovery, remember that the path may be winding and the terrain rugged. But with each step forward, you're charting a course towards greater self awareness and personal growth. Embrace the journey, embrace the lessons, and above all, embrace the opportunity to truly and fully care for yourself.